So, be protective of your personal information, and, feel free to sit back or ask questions, okay?
So are we supposed to just, do you want us to just kind of go over like each of these core classes?
Sure, you want to start that way, or do you want to, why don't you say, why don't each of you say, something more generally about your impressions of the program, and then we can sort of get to the details.
Okay.
Okay.
So during my first quarter in the program, I was a little bit nervous just because I was still finishing up some undergrad classes. So I was just wondering how that would work with taking graduate level classes and also trying to finish my undergrad degree. So the first couple weeks were pretty overwhelming, especially because you're getting to interact with a whole new cohort of people, and like you're pretty much one of the youngest people in the program if you're doing the joint degree program. So it's a little bit intimidating to like start to be in classes with people who have a lot of people who have already had a whole career before even, before being in the same class you are in with them. So it was definitely a little bit scary and a little bit overwhelming. But after the first couple of weeks, it started to feel more like home, and you start to make friends with these people. Where the all the cohorts at GPS are pretty close with each other. We have socials sometimes when it's COVID safe. A lot of people hang out, and there's like, I think, soccer leagues and stuff like that. But also the classes, since they are a higher level than undergrad classes, they're intimidating a bit at first, but once you kind of get in the swing of things, it's definitely possible. You just gotta be working hard and like really give it your all. And once you pass the first quarter, you'll definitely feel a lot better about the future quarters.
Yeah, just adding on to what Gray just said, I felt like joining the program at first, I was really nervous and unsure about, what I would be learning, if it'd be useful, if it was something I would like. And I would just say that the first year of the sequence really gives you a lot of opportunities to learn about things you didn't expect to learn, and then also build a really strong foundation for your second year where you really get to deep dive into issues you might be interested in. So for the first quarter, a lot of it is very quantitative with the QM series, which provides you kind of a basis for statistics, as well as our econ course, which kind of gives you the fundamental of economics for future sequences. And although that might be a little bit intimidating at first, I think that GPS does a really great job making sure that these courses are accessible for all students, no matter what type of quant background you might have in your undergrad. So I really feel like all of this tutoring services and all of the help from the TAs really help make sure that all students are able to really succeed at the beginning of this program as well.
Yeah, so building upon that, I would say, echoing what Greg said, I was pretty worried about finishing my undergrad classes because I didn't really realize that my first year would be like a full-on grad curriculum. I thought I'd take like one or two like supplementary grad classes, but it's like a full grad curriculum, and the people that you're taking it with are taking the exact same ones, even though you're still finishing your undergrad. So I would just, if you're considering this program, I would really try to like front load your undergrad classes, plan for that in advance. And then in terms of what Harris said about how quant heavy it is, I was one of those people that never took a statistics class in my life prior to GPS. So I was extremely nervous, extremely overwhelmed. But like I figured it out. And like econ was like my worst subject, and now econ is like 75% of like my classes, and I kind of enjoy it now. Like I have a pretty good understanding of econ, so I would say GPS does give you a really good foundation for those skills. And even though the first year curriculum is like, I don't want to scare you. I'd say it's like much harder than undergrad, especially if you're like an IB major that didn't have quant heavy classes. I would say it's harder, but it's much more fulfilling and rewarding. And I feel like I could actually use these skills in the workforce. And I was like confident in my ability to build upon them in my second year.
Chase, you want to say something about how the core is different for the econ students?
Yeah, for us econ students, the core is a little bit different. You start out just with one graduate level class. You get in the next quarter, you have two. And then at the last quarter, you have another two required, but I would suggest there's another class you can take if you'd like that I ended up taking. But I'd say the main thing is it's definitely not unfeasible. I would say taking your other econ courses, especially in the fall and the winter. That's the time you get a lot of your GEs out of the way. It's definitely a lot more writing and a lot more reading than you're used to coming over from the econ department. A lot less heavy focus on equations or microeconomics. But something that's definitely feasible and very interesting. It's a lot of political science. And it's kind of this combination of things. I find that having that heavy economics background was very useful in a lot of these classes. And at the end of the year, you get to do some more hands-on stuff, which is something I know in the econ department, we do a lot of application. If you want to take QM3, you get a chance to do a project using econometrics, and you get another chance to do some more actual hands-on work in another course at the spring. I forget what it's called, but it's actually a lot of fun.
And then did you guys all do internships? Even virtual ones? Given that the world was still screwed up? Yeah. You want to say something about that? So at the end of your senior year? Yeah,
at the end of your senior year, you get to get a chance for summer internship, and you can work with career services to get that set up. I worked as a RA to Professor John Alquist. Definitely, I mean, the work I was doing was I was able to do it from like a virtual setting. So I feel like that's not so representative of like my colleagues' work. Although some of them were able to do internships across the state online. So that was interesting, but maybe they would have preferred to go, like I know some of my colleagues for State Department, they would have preferred to have that in person.
Adding on to what Chase mentioned, I think that something that I found really helpful at GPS is our career services team. So I know a lot of students, with the virtual era, it was really challenging to find internships and to really think about how we want to grow professionally and how we want to network with alumni. But we have a really strong career services team that's dedicated just to helping students, connect with these resources. So we have dedicated staff for the government sector, for the private sector, for NGOs and multilaterals. So there's a team to help you no matter what your interest may be. For me, for my process, I personally just found my internship by working with one of my coaches to kind of narrow down my search of what I wanted to look for. But I know a lot of other students and BA MIA and BA MPP students were also able to find internships directly from alumni and those references. So I think that's something that's really great to take advantage of.
Yeah, I'll second that. Career services at GPS is awesome. They're super helpful, and they always like want to make sure that that you have the opportunity to get work experience if that's what you're looking for. And they also want to get you that experience in a sector that you're actually interested in. So I think that's one of the best parts about GPS is having career services like behind you. They're super helpful, super nice. So yeah.
And so you guys are second year, so are you starting to look for jobs?
Yes, scary. But another thing that career services has been super helpful with, I've been talking to an alumni of GPS who works at a renewables company who I got into contact with through a like career fair that career services put on. And yeah, so I pretty much have them to thank for that contact. And yeah, I'm super happy about that.
Yeah, I would say career services has been really useful in the job search too. Like undergrad, I never used the career services. I never even knew where it was, so I didn't have much hope. But like the first time I came in for help in the application, I realized like it's so extremely helpful to have like them review it and do interview prep with you. And now I would say I meet with career services like once every like 2-3 weeks at least, and it's always super helpful. So that's a big plus.
I was able to get a job offer already, so uh, I I guess I'm in a little bit of a lighter place than some of my colleagues, since I already have that lined up. But definitely the having GPS on my application definitely smoothed things over and helped me get into a higher pay grade. So I have that to thank them for.
What's the job, Chase?
I work for Northrop Grumman.
Oh, good. So Harrison's going, pick me, pick me. So did you guys know this about career services when you applied to the program? Or was this something that you learned afterward about their usefulness and helpfulness?
I did not know about the program. I learned about career services. So you have to do a like summer prep thing when you get accepted into GPS. So the summer before your first year, you do like a math camp, writing camp, and like a career services, like getting to know career services situation. And they literally like show you everything that they have to offer. And it takes, how long is prep? Like 6 weeks or something?
Yeah, total, it's about 6 to 8 weeks, depending on, not everybody has to do all of it.
Yeah.
Depends, but if you come in and you do the whole thing, it's about 8 weeks.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, like it took them like the whole time to get through all the career services stuff because they have like that much to offer. Like, it was really cool to just be able to kind of get your hand held through the process of like, this is the career services website. This is where you can find internships. This is like how your resume should look. There's like cover letter workshops. They have like everything you could think of.
Yeah, I also didn't know about career services when I applied. And I think one of the big pluses about career services are that it's a specific program and the curriculum is specific. So the jobs that they curate for you on the job board is also very specific to your interests and your skills. So like when I'm looking on like LinkedIn or like Indeed, other job boards, like I never find as many like interesting positions that are more catered towards like my skills and interests than I do on like the GPS board. And like the jobs they post there, they usually have like alumni connections already. So like if I'm interested in a position, I'll talk to a career coach and I'll get like way more detailed information and guidance on how to like go about it.
So just before we get to some of the questions in the chat, do you guys want to touch on maybe your career tracks or specializations a little bit and how that's led to you to your internships and jobs?
So my regional focus in undergrad was Latin America, and I carried that over to GPS. And then my career track, which is something that you kind of select before your second year, I think is when that happened, is in international environmental governance. And so with that career track, you're able to take a bunch of classes like that are catered to that career track. So I've taken a bunch of energy classes, some environmental justice classes, and then when they have like career fairs and things like that, now that you see like kind of the work that you want to get into, you can choose to talk to people who work at a certain or in within a certain sector that you want to learn more about. And that can kind of lead you to a job or to an internship. But the career track is a really cool way to get what you want out of GPS and like sort of customize it to what you're aiming to get out of it.
So for me, my career track is in international development, and my regional specialization is in Southeast Asia. Coming into GPS, I actually didn't think I was going to do the development track. I didn't know very much about it. I was planning on doing the management track, which is really looking at, private sector, business practices. But, that first year and being able to, engage with my classmates and talk to professors really got me interested in development, which is something I knew very close to nothing about before. So that's dealing with things like poverty alleviation and the sustainable and inclusive development. So I would say that, that first year really gives you a lot of opportunities to learn about these different fields and just, talking with alumni from specific industries, getting to know what type of work they do, what that work looks like, really helps you refine your search. So, right now I'm still not certain where I want to go or, where this degree is going to take me, but I would say that it's given me a really big breadth of experience and, that flexibility in choosing your classes is something that you still have. So I think for the career tracks, you only have 2 core required courses you take. The rest are all electives, so you can really make it work for you and what you're interested in. And then for your regional specialization, it's just 1 politics class about the region and 1 economics class. So I would say that it's overall pretty flexible when it comes to what you want to take on a quarter basis.
I just wanted to talk about the career tracks for MPPs. It's a little bit different than the MIAs, but kind of similar. You'll be taking a lot of your classes with them. We've got, I think, 5, right now. Currently, I'm a peace and security and also a policy design and evaluation tracks. Peace and security is a lot more like IR based classes. I would say very interesting. And I'm also a policy design and evaluation, which is a lot more methods courses. But yeah, you really get to kind of choose your own curriculum. You have those 2 required courses, just like the MIAs, but you kind of get some wiggle room with those 3 other courses. And also, just picking your career path in general, you kind of know what kind of classes you're getting into.
Let me just jump on in both the career tracks and the areas, what are called the areas of specialization in the MPP. And we gave them 2 different names only so that when a student is talking to us and advising, we know what program they're in, but they're structured exactly the same. But we tried to design them so that, each track is sort of malleable to a student's interest. So Chase says he's doing peace and security. you can choose classes that are more on the peace side. And if you choose classes that are in security, you can think of security sort of traditionally, you know, big powers and so on, or you can think about security in terms of food, the border, even some environmental issues. So we tried to make it, we tried to allow leeway for you to think about, how you really want to, what you want to do. There are lots of jobs out there that deal with issues of peace and security, and they're not all in the military, and they're not all in the State Department. Some of them are in nonprofits working with migrants or on environmental issues, right? So they allow you to kind of craft it. Once you take the skills courses that are required, it allows you to craft it. Why don't you guys talk about the kinds of jobs? Chase, you already have a job, so we don't need to hear from you about this, but again, congratulations. Your classmates probably didn't want to hear that, but why don't Harrison, Chow, and Grace talk about the kinds of jobs that you are looking for, and jobs that you know that other people have gotten either in your class or in prior classes, so that people have a sense of what the range is. Chow, what are you looking to do?
Yeah, so my background is mostly in like community organizing, and my track is international development. And so I think the next step that I want to make is to transition from organizing into more like policy research and advocacy. And I've done a lot of like informational interviews to like settle on this like actual title that I want to do, because for a long time I kind of had like an idea, but I didn't know. So I would say like that's one thing that's super helpful is do informational interviews. And then also the jobs that I'm applying for, they're very like geared towards like development issues. So like poverty alleviation, as Harrison said, and then also a lot of like climate justice stuff, which is like more of what Grace is interested in. We've taken like a couple of climate classes together. Yeah, so, and one job that I recently applied for is for the Poverty Action Lab at MIT. And we actually have an alum working there now as a senior policy associate. So those are the kinds of jobs that GPS is usually at. Oh, and also before this, I was working at City Heights CDC, which is like a local NGO, and they work a lot with like, I was working in the economic development department. And so I did a lot of work with like SDEDC, which is like the San Diego Economic Development Collaborative. And we also have an alum there, Jesse Nowslin. He was like my TA last year, and he came back to talk to us about his job. So it's pretty cool to see GPS alum all around in familiar places.
So I don't really know exactly what I want to do, but I know a lot of my classmates like go off and work for the State Department. There's a lot in the private sector. I'm kind of looking more to work in the private sector, with like maybe on the policy side of renewable energy. But yeah, like as a GPSer, there's alumni like all over the place. So if you take advantage of like the career services and like networking events that we have, you'll be able to like make connections with these alumni who are doing things that you didn't really think you'd be interested in. And then you talk to them a little bit and you're like, okay, that's pretty cool actually. So you could, there's a pretty wide range of things you can do, especially with a master's degree, like just having that alone, and one from like UCSD is pretty cool. Employers are pretty stoked to see that.
For me, I'm currently looking more towards program management roles or analyst roles in development. So a lot of that is with NGOs, primarily in DC, but they're all spread around. But I'm also looking at some, government agencies and contractors as well with USAID. I would say, as Grace mentioned, we have a lot of alumni in a lot of different places. I know we have a ton of alumni working up in the Bay Area on renewable energy, and as well as in tech. So that's a big spread. A lot of the second years that graduated before us, I know working more in political advocacy as well. So there's just a really broad spread there.
It's also the case, particularly for internships, that we have faculty who are working in all parts of the world. And so someone asked about, what if you want to go to Southeast Asia? One of our faculty, Nico Ravenelia, has used GPS students during the summer in the Philippines to collect data. We've had students go to Thailand. We've had students do RA work in China. But we also have a faculty member who does work on human rights. And so someone was able to get an internship working with the UN on the West Bank. And then, we have alumni all over the place. Yeah, in the world where you can actually travel and go someplace. But, we have alumni all over the world. And so if you end up working in your own backyard, it's because you either had no imagination or because that's where you want to be. I mean, it's really possible, I think, to go anywhere and do lots of stuff. We have people in marketing, we have people in tech, with people in government, several government agencies, including the secret ones. People go, oh, I got a job, but I can't tell you who it's for. Let's see, I wonder who that is. We have people who go into multilaterals, go to Europe and go, into multilaterals, NGOs, nonprofits. And so it's kind of like, what do you want to do? And then sitting down with career services and figuring out how to figure out what's out there. Right? Do we want to open it up and let the students themselves, let the students who are here ask questions of the panel?
Yeah, so a few people have been typing in the chat. If you feel comfortable, feel free to unmute yourself if your question hasn't been answered yet. If not, we can scroll back up and find it in the end. But if you feel comfortable, feel free to unmute yourself now and the panel can answer any questions you guys have.
Well, instead of me hammering out that answer to this question about TA-ships, Grace, you've done TA-ships. You want to talk about those? And I think you all have, right? One of you want to talk about doing a TA-ship in your second year?
Yeah. So getting a TA-ship is awesome because it pays for like a pretty good chunk of your tuition. And also on top of that, you get like monthly pay. And also on top of that, you get to work with the faculty. You can either get a TA-ship through GPS. So that would be like either TAing for like a graduate level class, or I TA'd for INTL 102 with Professor Walters. And that was awesome to like get a chance to work with students and help students in a class that I've taken. And it was also awesome to work with her because she is really cool. But yeah, if you can get a TA-ship, I highly recommend it. It's really fun. You get to meet students who you were in the same position as, and just kind of help guide them and help them improve. INTL 102 was like a writing course, so I got to help students improve their writing, which I feel like is super meaningful because in any job that you're going to get is going to involve writing. So if you can help people improve that, like that feels really good. But I know the rest of you all were also TAs. So I wonder what your guys' experiences were as well.
It's definitely, I TA'd for quantitative methods 1, and now I'm TA'd for quantitative methods 2. Not a class that the BA MPPs take, but it's definitely interesting to have students in your class that are also your colleagues in other courses. It can be something that's a little bit different. I think you won't find that a lot of places. And it's definitely like you have to kind of keep this certain professionalism. You know, you can't be too I don't know how to say it, like, you know, they're students, but also, you know, they're within your class, and it gets a little complicated, but it's very, I feel much closer to my students because of that, and you know, it makes that experience all much better.
Yeah, so I kind of had a similar experience to Grace. I TA'd for INTL 101 last quarter for undergrad students, and now I'm a grader for PMP policymaking processes with Professor Victor. That's a class that everyone will take in their first year as part of the core curriculum. I would say, like, as Grace said, it's a really valuable experience to help people with their writing, but it's also really helped me with my writing, just getting to read and evaluate and learn like what good writing looks like, so I can even improve myself. Writing is such a big part of like GPS and just your entire life. So I think it's like a really invaluable skill to like work on. Oh, just to add, I would say like as Grace said, TAing is such a financial relief for tuition, and it's pretty stressful in the beginning, like, you know, thinking like, am I gonna get that TA chip? Am I gonna get tuition remission? And one tip I would give is to definitely like make connections with professors that you want to TA for now. It's so helpful if you have that like personal connection already, because professors basically just want someone that like they know is going to be like a competent person. And so if you can just make that connection before applications are due and have that like connection with them, like it's gonna be so helpful and like way less stressful for you.
In fact, it's, you know, the case that TA-ships have become fairly abundant. And so anyone with decent grades who wants a TA-ship or a readership or be a grader for a class ends up getting employment. And that comes with a tuition fee remission and a salary. So it doesn't make school free, but it does go a long way toward paying your tuition. And one of the benefits of the BA MIA or BA MPP is that you're paying only 1 year of graduate tuition fees, and graduate tuition fees are more expensive than the undergraduate ones. And so, you know, just when the price tag goes up, you have this option of getting a TA-ship. We use a lot of you guys in the INTL classes and as Chase said, in the core. Who has questions? Yeah. Unmute yourself and just ask a question. How competitive are the applications? I get asked this all the time. And let me be like really straightforward about it. I'm usually the one who I am the one who works most closely with students right now as they get close to the applications. And I'm very straightforward with students when I look at their academic record or talk to them about what they're interested in, about whether they're going to get in. The GPA requirements are hard requirements. I look at how much coursework you have left to do. If you're someone who's a double major in econ and neuroscience and you've got 9 million classes left to do in a year, plus the 6 that you have to do, or 5 that you have to do at GPS, I might tell you it's probably not a very good idea. In the end, it becomes pretty self-selective. And so the students who apply are typically admitted. So the admission rate is very high, but that's because up to that point, I'm pretty straightforward with someone. If I look at your file and say, you know, your grades just don't make it possible, or you've got way too much coursework left to do in order to be able to finish to get your bachelor's and do a year of graduate work. So competitive, yes, but not in that kind of mysterious undergraduate or PhD way where you don't really know like what are people going to be looking at. It's really very clear. GPA for your cumulative, your upper division major GPA, and how much coursework you have left to do. Right? And that you have something interesting to say about why you want to be in the program, right? What else? Okay, you want me to just answer questions from from the chat? You guys don't want to talk. It's so much more interesting if you talk. You do not have to have finished. You do not have to have finished all of your undergraduate, which is to say your major requirements by the time you apply. As Chase said, he ended up taking a lot of GEs and other elective requirements for econ. Most of the ISP students have at least INTL 190 to do in their senior year, and other things. And so what I'm looking for is 2 things. One is, that you, first of all, that all of your lower division work is done, that you don't have, a lot of coursework left to do in your senior year, and that you've got some coursework that leads me to believe that you can, in fact, do the work at GPS, so that you've got, upper division work that's going to provide you with some skills. You can write, if you're in the BA MPP, that you've at least started the micro series and the econometric series, so that you're keeping pace with the GPS students, with the ISP students, that you've completed the math, that you've got the lower division economics, so that when you come into the fall micro class, you're not going to go, wait, they're Greek letters. What does that mean? I hear that a lot. Like, I didn't know I had to know Greek. That's because you haven't done it before. And so, it's looking at what's on your application, but none of us expect you to be done with everything that you're required to do for your undergraduate major. Okay. If you're a transfer student, that's almost impossible unless you're applying in your second year on campus, which is not uncommon for transfer students. And Natalie is here, and having her here reminds me, it's really, if you're in the political science department, talk to Natalie. Like, she knows the political science requirements a lot better than I do. If you're in ISP, talk to me or Julia. If you're in economics, you're welcome to come talk to me. You should talk to the economics department about your econ requirements. They keep a list of advanced electives that is a kind of moving target for me, but they know it better. But you should be working with your departmental advisors as well as with us to make sure that you're on track. Because in all of the programs, whether it's econ, ISP, and all of the tracks in ESP and the political science department, the undergraduate requirements leading into the BA, MA programs are different than standard political science, standard econ, and standard ISP, right? So you need to know what those differences are. What else?
I have a question about like kind of how your 5th year would work out. I'm interested kind of in the anatomy of that, like just with classes, but more specifically, if I had like a minor, graduated with a minor in my senior year,
Mhm.
but had like even more classes than that minor required, would it be possible to try and like take 3 or 4 more classes in that 5th year to try and just get the double major? Is that something that's realistic?
No, no, because you will have graduated by your 5th year, right? By the start of your 5th year, you would have graduated with your bachelor's degree. And so one of the, I don't know whether this is good or bad, but when you come into your 5th year, you come in with 0 units and a 0.0 GPA. And so nothing carries over, right? But I'll let these guys talk about what the, as you say, the anatomy of the 5th year is like. What's it like? What's the coursework like in your 2nd year?
So the 5th year is like honestly so much better than the 1st year. The 1st year is like a lot of quant stuff, and if you're not really into that, like it's difficult, but like once you get into your 5th year, you realize like kind of why you needed all that. Like it's not to say that you're going to be doing econ for all of your time at GPS, but like doing the econ, doing the QM series helps you understand like why things happen the way they do. And it's just like critical background that you kind of need. But in your 5th year, you get to pretty much make your own schedule. Like you get to take whatever you want, and it's much more interesting because finally you're like, okay, cool. I didn't come to GPS to become a math whiz. I came to like learn about environmental justice or things along that nature, whatever your interests are. So the 5th year is awesome. I've been enjoying it a lot. It was really cool to be in person last quarter, and finally get to like meet your cohort and make friends. That was amazing, and get to meet the faculty. And yeah, so 5th year is really cool, and it's worth hanging on during your 1st year.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like 5th year is like a complete 180 from 1st year. 1st year is kind of like you're kind of in the trenches. Like I'm not gonna lie, it's really hard, and you really don't see the bright light at the end. You don't really know where this is going. But by your 2nd year, you're like, oh, I can finally read all these regression analyses. Like I know how to do research. I know how to use Google Scholar, like all these basic skills that you like never really thought about before. Like you just have them at the top of your head. And then basically all the classes I say are very different because instead of like I would say 1st year, like you're kind of given the data set, you're kind of given the steps, but your 2nd year, you have the tools. Now it's just kind of like, what are you going to do with it? So a lot of the classes, like you're coming up with your own topics, you're conducting independent research, and you just have your professor and like your peers there to guide you along and like kind of share thoughts with. So I'd say it's really different that way. And it's really interesting to just explore the areas that you're actually interested in and go deeper into that. And I would say like for my INTL 190 class, I produced like a research paper, and that was probably the only form like independent research I did in my undergrad. But during your 5th year, you're doing one of those for every single class, every single quarter. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on from my perspective from the econ department. And definitely I would say 2nd year is a lot more, I don't know, it's a lot more fun to me. I can choose what classes I want to do. I felt like a lot of the classes were less like I'm being lectured at, but more of like have a discussion with, like some of my security classes, it's more back and forth talking about different issues and, getting ideas for papers. I have much more like self-directed ideas on what I want to write about, what kind of projects I want to go ahead with. And that was something, definitely the econ department, you don't really get to choose to do some of these things unless you take some of the more like honors level courses. And that sort of application isn't really expected out of you. So it was a unique opportunity to do those things.
For me, I would say that fifth year has been a lot more project-based. Also just had a lot more opportunities to work with your classmates, which I found really helpful. I would say first year, it's challenging in the sense that you really feel like you're being stretched. Your brain literally feels like you're gonna have a meltdown because you have so much new information and just kind of learning how to navigate those things. But then second year is when you really get to implement that and kind of see how much you've learned. So just looking back on classes you've taken before, you feel so accomplished that you've learned a lot. And that's when it really starts to click that you've gotten a lot out of the program. But I would say, yeah, second year is a lot smaller in terms of classes, way more projects, also a lot of opportunities to talk more one-on-one with your faculty and professors to really guide where you want to go. So I've really enjoyed that.
Also, another thing I'll say about GPS that I really liked is that the TAs in your first year are the besties. Like, they are so helpful, and they don't need to do this, but they like put their life on the line for you. They are like the saviors. I have like all my TAs to thank for me passing QM, because they're super helpful. They want you to understand the material. They go above and beyond with everything. So it's not like it's super hard and you're all alone. Like, it's super hard and you have a ton of help. People who want to help you. You have your classmates who are in the same boat. So while it's hard, it's also like there's some camaraderie involved in it for sure.
And let me say something about the first year. I mean, as someone who went to graduate school, I have a PhD, and graduates, the first year of graduate school is the first year of graduate school. I've been teaching for so many years, and truly the only year that I worked harder than my first year in graduate school was the first year I was teaching, and I was having to get up at 3:00 in the morning to write lectures for classes because I was teaching for the first time. I mean, the first year, no matter whether it's GPS or a PhD program or an MBA program or medical school or, some other program, the first year is just hard, because a graduate degree has hard skills that you don't have as an undergraduate, or you're learning to use your hard skills differently. The other thing is, to this day, I can, and I got my PhD before any of you were born, but I can to this day remember the day in my first year of graduate school when I went, holy shit, I know this thing. Like, I can now start doing harder work because I finally learned this thing. It was like this giant light bulb went off. People survive the first year. Everybody graduates. There are people who leave the program because they decide they don't want to do the work, but people get through, and they go on to get good jobs. So it is more work and the work is harder, but I mean, that's what it means to get the kind of training, to get the kind of jobs that you all want to have. All right. What other questions do you have? Anybody? Just unmute yourself and ask.
I have a question about double majoring.
Okay.
So I'm currently a junior and I haven't actually gotten a double major yet. I'm thinking of applying to one possibly in the upcoming year. I know we have to get our coursework done within the first year of the program, I guess, like before year 4 when you graduate. Would me applying now for a double major impact my chances of getting into the program to begin with, as mentioned earlier?
Not necessarily. Again, to go back to what I said was a lot of it would depend on being able to sit down and saying, okay, here's the coursework that you have left to do, and is it doable in the time? I just worked with a student who just started, who's going to apply to the program, who's an ISP student who just declared a double major in Viz Arts. One of the departments on campus that's the most difficult to know exactly when your classes are going to be offered. She's going to have to go. I mean, we sat down and we did a quarter by quarter plan. She's going to have to go to summer school, but she's a very good student. So, I'm not going to tell her you can't do 5 classes a quarter. That's not doable. She's been taking 5 classes a quarter up to this point. Graduate courses are going to add to that, but if I look at a 4-year plan and say, if I look at your plan from here to June of 2023 and your courses all fit in a way and you think that you can do it, that's doable. When it's not doable is if I look at it, you have to take 8 classes a quarter or 7 classes a quarter. And then it's just, it's a health risk, right?
And also, sorry, was Chase going to say something?
Oh, sorry, I just need to dip out for my office hours. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming, and I'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Harrison, go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot my question actually. Oh yeah. So somebody just asked us in the chat. So Judy asked, when does the application process start? I heard that you need to apply during the spring quarter of your 3rd year, but it seems like you can apply at other times too. So how does that work out exactly?
Applications are due on April 12th. And you can only apply in the spring. We have some students who apply later than their sort of nominal junior year, sometimes students with double majors. Some transfer students don't have enough coursework when they come in as juniors to be able to apply in their first, which would really be their first year. So it's a little bit more flexible. I mean, again, work with your departmental advisor, talk to me about what that would look like, and we can get a better a better sense.
Sorry, what's your email?
Ngilson, Ngilson @ucsd.edu.
Thank you.
What else?
How much longer do we have? Because oh, actually Chase left. Never mind. I had a more general question for Chase.
What is it? Is it a general question about requirements?
For the MPP.
Okay.
thing.
Yeah. For the BA MPP.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear more about his thought process for choosing. He said there were 5 different routes you could go.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in your senior year. I wanted to hear more about his thought process for which ones he chose.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if you could yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not in BA MPP, but I know the choosing the tracks is kind of a similar process for BA for MIAs and MPPs, because we both have a couple of tracks to choose from. And I, like Harrison, I also thought I was going to do international management. I wasn't really sure. But I would say it's really helpful once the track list comes out, of the class list that comes with the tracks, because I just thought what kinds of classes seem most interesting to me, and all of them seem to fall under the track that I chose. So that was just my thought process. Maybe some other people would have a different thought process, but yeah.
Something I've heard from a lot of my MPP friends is that at least with the tracks, a lot of them actually end up overlapping with the requirements. So I know a lot of my classmates who accidentally ended up with an extra track they didn't think they were going to have just because of their interests. I would say, like, don't worry too much about whether or not you'll fulfill like basic requirements for graduation, because there's a lot of flexibility with the courses you can take.
And look, one of the things that I always say when I talk to students, and these three have probably heard me say it, and that is that what I really hope happens is that you come in thinking you're going to do one thing, and then somewhere along the line you have an identity crisis and you end up doing something else. Because that means that GPS has really done what it's supposed to do, which is to kind of teach you a bunch of new stuff that you just didn't know you were going to learn, and all of a sudden give you a bunch of skills that you didn't know you were going to have. And so you come in thinking, oh, I'm going to do international politics and I'm going to go to work for the GAO. And then you come in and you discover energy policy and you want to go work for a nonprofit that puts, solar energy, on schools in Guatemala. I mean, it's just like, that's in some ways, for me, that's the best outcome of GPS. And I think most students will tell you that they don't in fact take a straight line from coming in the door to going out the door. Anything else? Any other questions? Julia just put contact information in the chat. Thank you, Julia. And look, you should feel free to send emails to me or to the other staff. I've overseen both programs for a very long time. I was part of a group that created the BA MPP curriculum. I've taught an ISP since before there was DIRT, and have run the program for the last 11 years. And so, I know, I sort of know the inside of it. And then again, talk with your advisor in political science or economics about your curriculum requirements there. Anything else? No? Julia, anything we should add?
No, I mean, did we want to briefly go over the application still, or do we not have time? We don't have time, I guess.
Well, I sort of want to give people back their evenings. We will be
Yeah.
having an application workshop. An email will go out and give you more, so that you can really learn more about the application. And we can talk about the personal statements, which are an important part of the application, and are different from the kind of personal statement that you wrote as a senior in high school hoping to get into UCSD or Berkeley or whatever your first choice was, and then ended up here. So we'll have a workshop on that. Okay. Anything else? No? Shall we give them back their evening?
Yeah.
Thank you, Harrison and Grace and Chow, for taking time out of what I know is a busy life.
Yep. Thank you guys. And thank you for everyone for coming. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Natalie. Bye. All right, you guys.